In a world constantly in motion, where skies tell stories untold. One channel has the eyes to see beyond the visible. Welcome to Werx. Join us as we track and analyze the movements that shape our reality. From geopolitical shifts to the silent ops that never make the news. Dive deep into this unique perspective where we decode the signals above and reveal the stories they hide. Be part of a community that values truth and transparency, where every flight tells a story. Subscribe and join the mission. Stay aware, stay prepared, and stay vigilant with Werx.
All right, hey, welcome, monkeys. This is going to be your SITREP. It's 1/23/2025, coming to you live here from the great state of Texas in the Monkey Lounge. As we get into the deets today, we've got a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. There's things happening from an immigration perspective that I think we need to pay close attention to. And then, of course, as we watch all of that stuff unfold, there is some news that has come out around the Ukraine situation that is very interesting, not good. It isn't the first time that this has been pushed out there. In fact, you can go back within the last 2 years, and the Russian intelligence community has been pushing this narrative. And we're just going to kind of delve into it a little bit because I'm seeing some trends that may indicate that they aren't actually false. We'll just kind of get into that because it is very concerning what's going on over there. You can see, it's just what I said, as Zelensky is now under the Trump administration, he is in panic mode. And I think between him and the deep state, I think there's nothing they won't do. All right. And so we have to pay close attention to this because there's a lot of baiting going on when it comes to him with the NATO community. And then you can see NATO making some adjustments that would indicate that maybe this intelligence that Russia's saying in the region may not be too far-fetched. So let's do this. Let's jump over here to the mini. Hey, if you would, we'd love to have you join us over here on Patreon. And don't forget, if you're on Patreon, you can actually gift subscriptions now over here with us. You know, it's an amazing community. I think you will really, really enjoy it. A lot of stuff going on over there that we don't cover out and about. Okay, so Monkey Minute, as well as this UTR, which is under the radar. It's a SITREP light type of thing that we've been doing, and it's Patreon exclusive content. So, okay, let's look at our skies. We're in Skyglass, the #1 flight tracker on the planet, and you're talking 228 aircraft up. Now, this is all military. I'm not showing you commercial traffic because the sky would just be completely just packed, all right? But I have stripped out trainers, and we've got well over 100 trainers that were up in the sky today because it is beautiful weather. It's cold, but it's beautiful weather for flying. And so if we kind of peel it back a little bit, some of the areas we're going to be keeping a close eye on are, for example, the C-17s. We'll look at that traffic here in just a minute. You can see this is what's live up currently today, 26 C-17s in the air. And then we drop down. If you want to look at the air refuelers, this one, we're only sitting at 20. Pay no attention to that. That is actually a Tex-2 trainer. Somehow it's gotten into the mix here under my air refuelers, but that's just a Tex-2 squawking. And that's an emergency squawk. Could be anything, no radio or something simple. So, but that one is, that's where we are from an air refueler perspective. Notice you got a couple ships taking off out here in Tacoma. And then we drop down. Let me see. I'm just going to add to that. Not those. Those will be the Airborne Express. 767-200. Those are the Pegasus air refuelers as well. So if you add those into the mix, we've got about 35 air refuelers up. That's slightly higher, about 10 higher than normal. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at the C-130s as well because you can see not too many of them up over the United States. There seem to be a lot out and abroad and about. But the ones that I track are really U.S. military only at the current moment, just because that is a large pool of aircraft to be watching on a regular basis, and it kind of will clog your feet up. So, okay, this is what the sky is looking like, and you'll just notice there's a lot of activity down here on the southern border. So you kind of get into this is going to be Customs, right? U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And then, of course, we've got their balloons that are up. We do have a lot of Intel aircraft along the southern border right now. I'm going to show you some of that. You notice you've got the gray birds up again. That's Phoenix Air. Don't know where they're headed, but they are up and about. Remember, that's your Uber for your agency boys. Okay, got a little Sam headed down south. And no telling who that could be, but that's a G5. Not an accurate picture up there. Here, that's not a G5. That's a 737, and clearly not related. That happens from time to time. Now you'll see down here, I have a little Gitmo thing that's up. And then I got a little bug out thing over here. This is an alert. So anything that actually lands on the runway, I'll be capturing because they've been wiping the screens. And so we'll look at the arrival board. Of course, there's nothing really on it. We do see this one, this Gitmo flight that's headed to XPL Honduras. That was a location we used to watch because there is a prison nearby that. Don't know what it is doing, but probably just that's base commander, really. Okay, now let's just kind of start to peel this back a bit, starting out over here in the intelligence community, and just want to show you some things that, notice there's some very straight line flights into Southern California. You got them up there kind of tucked into that Utah corner, bottom left corner. A lot of stuff out of our southern area. That's the Glex flight, right? This will be LaSalle Aviation up to kind of the Seattle area. And then over in the middle, kind of the meat of the United States, you can see some stuff near Savannah. That's Hunter Army Airfield, intelligence community out of that. And then you'll notice we've got them very active around Kaliningrad, along that eastern flank. You've got them down near Italy and then over Constanta, okay? And a little jump up there towards Greenland. I thought that was interesting, just kind of checking the skies out, I guess, as they head up that direction. They did not land, so that was actually a surveillance flight that went up there. And then South Korea, okay? Now you talk drones, and you'll just notice very active over Southern California, maybe tied not just to customs and immigration, but that actually could be tied to the fires that are down there as well. And then up over Pennsylvania. So if you're in that area, just know you've had a Q4 drone or a Q9 that's been kind of in your neck of the woods. Won't be a shocker, especially if you've got ICE out doing things. Those Q9s would be a support aspect. And then that's a Q4 drone off the coast of Israel. You see one that breaks out, heads down over the Red Sea. Yeah, well, that's, eyes on. But notice it went dark, all right? Okay, R-135s. You start to look at a little bit out of Okinawa down towards, well, it looked like it was head southbound, but you can't really tell. Nothing in Australia, nothing over the Middle East. Get up a little further, and this is Jake 17. This is going to be the United Kingdom out doing their bit. Not U.S. assets, but the UK headed out. Notice they're just headed up that eastern flank. They go around the horn. That's Russia right there, right? So pretty active from the Brits' perspective over Europe. And then this is over the United States. Again, they're kind of homing in on this this mountain range up here into, Montana, Wyoming. Okay. This will be SIG Intel, right? Signal intelligence. So they're gathering cell data, satellite phone stuff, anything that's being transmitted, they are basically capturing it and analyzing it. Now, here's one more for you because it doesn't stop on the R-135 SIG Intel. Here's your nuke sniffer, which is interesting. It's up, was up yesterday, but notice the broken trace that heads out over the mountain range. Yeah, that's a little concerning. Went dark over the United States. So they don't want you knowing where they're looking. I find that very intriguing as it kind of breaks out and goes dark. All right, out here maybe? Okay. So that's R-135. Then we're going to talk AWACS, and then we'll start to hone in on some C-17 stuff. We'll talk about some of the other things happening in terms of transports. So nothing out off the coast of Australia, which is quite interesting. Now, I'm going to show you, I do have their aircraft loaded, but they seem to be wiping those flights, which is from an Australian perspective, I'd be a little concerned. And in the middle circles, just notice that's up near Denmark, then over Europe, over France. Okay, and off the East Coast, that's going to be your low-hanging ones, the E2s, okay, instead of, which is a Navy platform. And then up the West Coast. Now, I'm going to show you some air traffic. Notice down to the borders. We've seen them do that in the past, but I think there's a little more surveillance happening now than what we've seen. And I'm going to take you to something that will indicate that that is an accurate statement. So, okay. Now, look at this is air refuelers off the West Coast. This is, by the way, this isn't like a 30-day roll-up. This is a 3-day roll-up, okay? So I've never seen that much activity over the Pacific, ever. The Gulf of America, as I will point out, I was corrected 1,000 times in the chat because I called it the Gulf of Mexico. But let's just call it the Gulf of America. Why not? And then you'll notice a little flank there headed up towards Norway, and the normal kind of marshaling stuff. There is one that heads down towards the Ivory Coast of Africa, Nigeria, that general area. Then, of course, completely around Japan, right? Completely around Japan, this is all an indicator of fighter presence, right? Now, let's do this. I'm going to show you the Aussies first because there are some indicators that, first and foremost, that little spot right there, that's Alice Springs. I'm going to pause it for just a second. You remember Alice Springs? You remember during COVID when they said, we've got this location that's just it's a giant camp that we take these people that have COVID to and isolate them. It's got a runway and a whole bunch of other things. I don't know what else is up there, but there is a flight, military flight. Remember, too, that I have stripped for you Aussies down under. I've stripped out all the trainers. So what you see are going to be air refuelers, C-130s, C-17s, all your military aircraft, okay? So, again, Alice Springs, we back this up. You can see some more stuff up there way north. You see some things breaking out over Papua New Guinea. And then out little broken traces there. But see all of this, that could be air refuelers, which would indicate you got fighters up. Or it could be your AWACS that we have tracked because I'm tracking those particular aircraft. They can't really hide from me on that side. So, but the other piece, when I go to hit AWACS, I haven't seen anything in a long time. So, all right. We did have some Australians that look like they popped into maybe a red flag there in Dallas, and I see them in Hawaii. So, okay, that's going to be the Aussies. And let's go to C-130 activity. And I'm showing you this because, well, in fact, let's go through some of the news cycles, and then I'll bring that C-130 info in, and as well as the other stuff that we're tracking, okay? So we jump over here to the that's the Wednesday board. Let me hit a refresh because it is Thursday. Let's see what we have going on. President delivers remarks to a panel. This is a little concerning. It's CEOs at the World Economic Forum, and it's via video. It'd be interesting to see what he says. That I hate, absolutely hate. Makes me want to vomit. So, okay. But he's talking to the president of El Salvador, etc. So not a lot happening in senior staff meetings and a swearing-in ceremony. So it looks like people that have been confirmed are getting sworn in. That part's good. So let's move on from his board. Let's talk about the fires in California. You'll notice there is a new rapidly moving fire north of Los Angeles. I know we've got some of the monkey squad that lives out there, and so we, keep them in their prayers and your prayers because this is bad. It really is bad. And the stuff that has happened just in the recent weeks, it's just not good. It's arson. It's pyroterrorism that's happening, and it looks like people are still at it. So anyway, they're having to evacuate 50,000 people. 50,000 people. This is, we got what I'm not 100% sure what this is. This is a VIP for sure, a TFR. Not related to, so this, maybe Trump's going out there. You got this one in Vegas. I don't know what's happening here either, but we'll watch his calendar to see where he goes. I do see one up here in Asheville, and I did hear that he was going to actually go to that location. I find it interesting the size of the TFRs that seem to be going into play now. We thought it was just for flashbang because he was slow, but maybe because of the threat levels we have out there that they are kind of stepping those rings up now. I don't know. So let's keep an eye on it. All right. Okay, you may remember Trump just threatened tariffs against Mexico as well as Canada. Well, Canada is actually throwing some punches back. They said nothing's off the table. If you want to basically threaten us with a U.S. tariff, guess what we will do? We're going to hit you with, we're just going to cut off the energy that we're giving you. And you go, well, wait a second. How much energy do we get from Canada? It's a lot, folks. I will tell you, it surprised me. I get over here to Statista, and looking at, or Statista, looking at what we get from Canada, look at the number here, 90%. Canada accounts for approximately 90% of the annual electricity imports into the U.S. Did you know that was happening? I didn't know that was happening. 90%. So I think they got us on this one. I think that was I think Trump threw that out, and then this came back, and I'm probably thinking he probably licked his chops on that one and thought, yeah, maybe we try a different approach to get them to comply with us. So, okay, now look at this. We get over to this other piece. ICE presence was confirmed in South Shore last Tuesday. Now, you may remember we were actually talking in the past. I was showing you some of the intel flights, and I said, man, they're headed out over Reno, and they were watching Reno for a while. That tells me that there is something to this, okay? It says that they were confirmed in South Shore last Tuesday, and you get down here to this general area, you can see the stuff that's been pushed out there. Pretty interesting, to say the least. Do not wish to speak with you, answer your questions, or sign or hand you any documents based on the Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution. This is, I don't know what's going on with all of that, but it's a Tahoe-based immigrant lawyer that basically has handed these out to tell people not to comply. So the fact that they are down there, they said they were checking vehicles, a little interesting, but it confirms all of the intel flights that we have seen going that direction. All right, look at this. Air Force to conduct deportation flights for thousands of people. Look, they said they're going to use C-17s, C-130s to deport 5,400 people currently detained by the CBP. And these are people that basically are criminals. So that tells you, look, they brought them into our country knowing they were criminals, and now we're going to have to go round them up. All right. So it wasn't like they passed muster. They had a clean slate. They weren't criminals. They had no background like that. The previous administration knew they were criminals and let them into our country. So let that sink in. But look at the C-130 flights. And this is a confirmation of sorts, because as you get down, notice the volume along the southern flank, right? Down along the southern border. Trump just said, I'm pushing, 1,500 additional troops out. So this looks like the C-130 that may be delivering them, right? But then look at this. You see this flight down around the Horn into Guantanamo Bay? Okay. Well, then you go back over here. What did I just say, right? Plans to use C-1. They ain't planning to use it. They are using them, and they're taking them. Remember, Guantanamo Bay isn't just a prison. There's actually an immigrant camp down there. And so it looks like they are taking them down there, and then they'll process them and bounce them out of the country. So we're watching the board, and we'll look at that in just a minute. I'm not seeing anything else. These flights are not showing on the board, by the way. Never do. And right out of the gate, this is just basically scratching the surface, but hundreds of illegal immigrants arrested so far. And looks like this guy is doing what he needs to do. I will tell you, I posted yesterday on Instagram, and if you go over and you look at Omni, the amount of flights are coming in, everybody said, does Trump know about this? Look, I'm sure he does. There are people that are still coming in through the NGOs, and you can see this is, airline is there. That's who they use, right? You can see them Central America, Panama, down to Colombia, and they're flying them in to Miami, and then they put them on flights. They process them. They allow them into our country. So this is still going to happen for a little while until you get the tap shut off. It's a waste. I mean, because they're coming in faster and we're deporting them, okay? Still, this is Global X, an old broken trace out there. You notice they're not going south of the border. They're moving around inside the system of the United States, which tells me they are probably relocating these folks and pushing them out all around. Notice there's some border flights still down there. They're not taking them to the border and releasing them. They're moving them from San Diego over to Texas, right? They put them on buses. They still fly them around. But it looks like Global X is interior. Now, there could be one flight in there that may be related to some type of college bowl game. I know that has happened. But most of this is going to be moving illegals, right? That's their bread and butter. You can see them out of North Carolina, up into New York, over to Milwaukee, right? So, okay, that's the immigrant flights, what's been going on. So has it changed? It is significantly lighter than it was, but it's still happening, all right? So we're going to continue to watch it to see if it starts to kind of sunset. Now, again, it looks like they're starting this process. This is where I think things can get really dodgy here in the U.S. because as you start to run across any type of, maybe terrorist operations or cells or people tied to cartel or Hamas, Hezbollah, whatever it may be, there'll be some resistance. No two ways about that. And of course, I mentioned they're still flying in, but you got people that are actually 2,000 immigrants from southern Mexico joining this caravan in hopes of entering the U.S. despite Trump's orders. I see a lot of kids in here. Another thing I do see, a lot of men. I see no women, right? This is all men and young kids. Okay. This is just, again, it's a drop in the bucket. India to take back 18,000 Indian migrants living in the U.S. illegally. So we know they're here. That number, you could probably add some zeros to it. I will tell you, just in the city that I just moved out of alone, there's probably 18,000. So it was overrun. So not necessarily all illegal, but just saying this is going to get really interesting. All right, you want to take a look at what's going on out there relative to the Notams. Remember, that's Notice to Airmen. And you'll just see danger boxes here. You'll see some of these bigger boxes, LA, Las Vegas. He's going here to see the hurricane victims, guaranteed. That's what that's all about. Danger boxes up the East Coast. So this is probably, if I had to guess, maybe tied to the terrorist attack. May or may not be Trump. I mean, that could be Kash Patel headed that direction, but I've seen no FBI flights moving yet. Okay. And then that's a missile box. So somebody's launching something out here. Let me back up and see if there's anything else, another missile box. I got some TFRs up here in this general area. This is Russia. St. Petersburg is in here. All right. Ukraine, still pretty heavy. And then, of course, this out over the northern end of the UK, pretty active. So it looks like they've got some mill operations or exercises going on there. All right, now take a look at this. Trump revokes the order allowing transgender troops to serve in the military. Well, thank you. I think when we started to see guys showing up wearing skirts, it just was ridiculous. They're not kilts, folks. They're wearing skirts straight up with high heels. And so I'm glad that is happening. Maybe bring a little dignity back into our military because it was, over the last 4 years, the laughing stock of the world. So, all right, there's that aspect. Let's move on. Let's take a look at Guantanamo Bay. Now, I showed you the other day we had a flight come in. I believe those were J6 prisoners that were picked up and brought back. But notice the board is blank. Nothing. The only thing I have is this, which is very unusual because typically you don't see the base commander's flights leaving and coming back. All right. Very, very unusual to see that. But again, that is a base commander's aircraft. All right. But the board has been pretty blank. In fact, I go down, there's nothing since Saturday. That's where you had some folks from DC come in on one of the Sun Country birds. And that was on Saturday. Okay. Now, again, this is, you've got, where did our base commander go? He was in here just a minute ago. His flight has since disappeared. priority air transport. That's headed, looks to be into Guantanamo Bay. And that is a Coast Guard C-2017. So these two are probably coming into the bay. That priority air transport could actually be a prisoner either taking them in or taking somebody out. So we'll keep our eye on that. But that looks to be, if I was a betting man, that's rounding the horn. Yeah, that's getting ready to come in to Guantanamo Bay. All right. And that's a two-ship, by the way. See how they're following each other in? So that tells you more than likely that is going to be somebody being transported in. Okay, Biggs Army Airfield. This one I thought was interesting because we're starting to see this disbursement. My guess is they are basically kicking everybody out of these camps, and they're taking them to their forever homes. And this is probably one last big push. And then maybe those camps will be used to house the bad guys, all right? But that's what this appears to be. Notice you've got them coming in, National Cargo, Omni, and then, again, National Cargo from Orlando. That's their home base operations, by the way. And then here, headed to Denver, which we know that's a huge migrant location. Barksdale Air Force Base, I don't know. They could very well have a little camp there, but that's an Airbus. That could be bringing some folks back home that were deployed with the B-52s. But then you get down here to the scheduled departures. Notice you got Marietta. That's Dobbins, Baltimore, Washington, and then Charlotte. So that's an Allegiance flight. Oh, sorry, American Airlines flight. AAL, sorry. Headed to Charlotte, 777. So, all right. We'll keep an eye on it because if it continues, it'll take them a while to get everybody out. That camp holds 15,000 people. So if they are indeed pushing them out, then they'll be processed. They'll put into the forever homes, and then maybe we'll see them use those camps to take down the bad guys that are in our country. All right, Camber flights, 777 coming out of Kuwait, another one out of Okinawa. So 2 Camber flights, U.S. Transportation Command. This is going to be Royal Air Force Transport Command, so to speak. All right, and just notice they're all RZE Poland. That one's coming out. We'll look at RZE in just a minute. And let's see. That's a SPAR flight headed in. So you've got a couple C-130s. Jake 17, that is one, you've heard me call that call sign. That's an R-135 that arrived in Ramstein. Then you got a SPAR flight. That's a blue and white dignitary. So that's somebody that Trump appointed, more than likely headed that way. And then you've got, look, that's an Airborne Express headed to Terceira Island out of that location, and then more local transport stuff. So we'll keep our eye on Ramstein. This is RZE Poland. There's a couple things happening. This is where we're going to kind of get into what our main story is today. But take a look at this. Belgium Air Force, Italian Air Force, British Air Force, German Air Force. Let's go down, German Air Force. So you can see we seem to have a lot of NATO people flying into RZE Poland at this very moment. That is a little concerning. What I don't see are any more Camber flights on the board as of right now. So we'll watch to see. We had this flurry of 747 aircraft coming in for the last, couple weeks, but we'll see if any more come in. All right. Now, notice this right here. Trump ends Ukraine war in first 90 days. Look at this. It's down to 28%. That's just on the betting side of the house. I don't bet. I'm not a gambler, but that just shows you that the probability is pretty low. Let's look at this. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. Trump threatens tariffs as Russia sees a small window for a deal on Ukraine. So it looks like these two are going to have some chats, and it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. But, he did basically say we can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way, and we'll see what happens, right? But take a look at what Russia's doing. This is today. Actually, this is the 21st. So let me get to today, back into it here. Notice the drone attacks. So this is the day after Trump came into office, and they were lighting it up. Let's see what's happening now. We'll go down here to current feed, and that was up to yesterday. Let's see. Why is it not giving me Very, very interesting. All right, well, up to yesterday. So that's okay. It's pretty late in the day there now. So this was, notice the deployment of U.S. Air defense systems all the way across, and looks like they're still lighting it up. So we'll keep our eye on that. Looks like they used the ATACMS again. That's not good. And there's a little fire going on out here. Military aviation plant. Actually looks like they hit them a lot. Holy smokes. So that was yesterday. So that's not a good thing. But look at the amount of strikes that Ukraine conducted. Yowza. That's a lot. That's the most I think I've ever seen of them hitting them with missile stuff. So, okay. Check this out. This isn't the first time, as I mentioned at the very beginning, not the first time we've heard this, but Ukraine is preparing provocations with chemical and radioactive substances. This came out. They're talking about in October of 2024. He started this person over here on Telegraph, pushed this story out, and they go into just a lot of different details around it. But they have the documents to prove that this is an accurate thing that is happening. Now, this is all in Russian. So Honeywell Research Chemicals, that's U.S. But it says a new U.S. chemical provocation. This time the con will be pulled off by the hands of the SBU. So they're basically saying, look, they're going to scuttle the boat. This is going to be enough because it's going to kill enough people. It's going to put enough of a footprint on the global scene that they believe that there will be a retaliation against Russia. Now, it's an internal job. But they're going to use that to bait NATO and the United States to go to war against Russia. Remember I told you, Zelensky's little dancing man is getting desperate. He knows his days are numbered. He's going to do anything and everything he can in his power to survive, okay? And this is not out of the question. So they're talking about releasing chemical and radioactive substances. You're talking Kiev. You're talking about major populous areas that they're talking about doing this. So pay attention to that, all right? And then here's another one why I think, ooh, okay, well, maybe NATO realizes that the writing is on the wall. NATO collectively is not able to defend itself, right? It says in 4 or 5 years with a 2% defense spending, that's coming from a Secretary General. Should the U.S. administration keep supplying Ukraine from its defense industrial base, Europeans must be ready to pay the bill. So notice it says here that if they keep supplying, that they're going to have to step it up. Well, they know, the United States has been, 90% of NATO? Trump has already said, ain't happening. You guys better start stepping it up. He did that in his last administration. If Trump backs out of this, that is very bad for NATO. I would say that they will be bankrupt very rapidly if they try to continue to push the amount of money that they're doing into that situation. So not good, but I think they recognize that times they are changing, okay? Now look at this. Zelensky comes out. Little man says, we need 200,000 international troops to secure the Ukraine border in any hopes of peace. Just blows you away. Of course, he too is also speaking at the World Economic Forum. Why do we even bother? We know what they're all about. Talking Great Reset. This is not good, but let's keep going. Another little comment out of little man Zelensky. America's NATO ally deploys troops to the Russian border. This basically says NATO's newest member has sent hundreds of troops to Latvia, right? So that's Sweden. Arrived at the Baltic state to join a Canadian-led multinational brigade. All right. That is already there, been there since March 2024. So the Swedes are now pushing everybody forward. That's not a good sign. And again, Zelensky is trying to do all he can to get them engaged. He said, it has to be U.S. troops, right? Here, in fact, here it is. American troops must be deployed to Ukraine or Russia won't be deterred. This is coming from Zelensky, as he already called for 200,000 troops to go there, okay? So let's go back over to this part, right? as we got into this, the NATO ally deploys troops, but then we get into, remember when flashbang, right, good old Joe Biden removed the Houthis from the terrorist list in 2021? Yeah, and how many times have they tried to attack our U.S. Navy ships in the Red Sea? A multitude of times, probably a dozen. Okay. So Trump has now come back in and said, no. You guys are the bad guys, and we're going to take you out. Right. Also, remember, too, he just classified the cartel, Hezbollah, Hamas, all of these groups as terrorist organizations. That's going to open up the door for a lot of things inside the United States. Okay. Yeah, they're standing on the U.S. flag. Not a shocker. But I think it's about to be on over there. Remember, I just showed you one of the flights, that the Intel flight that disappeared. Actually, that was a drone flight. Disappeared over the Red Sea. So I think we're about to see this part light up as we teach them a very valuable lesson. Okay. Now, you got to check this out. This is going to blow your mind. This is what Gaza looks like today after 15 months of war. Look, that completely leveled. There's no Gaza left. This is absolutely incredible. You can see just piles upon piles of rubble as these people walking through what is left of this street. And that's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. Can you imagine living in that condition? Syria looked a lot like that too when it went into civil war. But just wait. Trump's going to be coming in here with this hot and heavy with this Abraham Accord. And I think that's going to probably, you'll see them start to go in and clean all this up and start rebuilding homes and all the other stuff that they do. But that is complete and total devastation. So it's a valuable lesson to learn from the Israelis, right? Because they're small, they have to protect themselves. You mess with them and they come back at you like tenfold. So, that's how we should treat the Houthis, right? You attack our ships, it's an act of war. We're going to take you away from this planet. We're going to introduce you to your maker. So that's how you have to respond. You don't go in light. You got to go in heavy, and you got to teach people a lesson. Now, will this change anything in the Middle East? Probably not. It's going to take a big peace deal. But when you see images like that, it makes you kind of get that taste in your mouth that, man, war is ugly, and maybe it is time for peace, right? As I always say, if you want peace, prepare for war, right? That's what the Israelis do very well. So, okay, well, look, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. We'll see you after this. For those in the live chat, we'll see you over here on Patreon. And then, of course, we'll see you over the weekend. So you guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.